good morning and welcome to all of you that have joined us this morning. And for those of you that think that we have boring meetings, wait until you see the group we have here today. It is great to have you all, and we'll call this meeting to order. With us this morning, we have Marcia Haney of Cedar Chapel, UMC, and we will have an invocation. Following that invocation, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. We invite you to join us for both. Marcia Haney, thanks for being here.
Good morning. Will you bow your heads and join me for a moment of prayer? Dear God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our government leaders. We thank you for our Mayor, Longwell. We thank you for the great work that he's done in this community. We thank you for each of our district leaders, all of their workers, and for the volunteers of this great city. God, I ask your blessings upon this meeting. I ask that you continue to give them wisdom and strategy to make this the best city in this area. Lord, we ask that you continue to watch over their families as we go about our day. Lord, you know what we need. We enjoy being one of the top cities in the country, but we need wisdom and strategy to continue to make Wichita first. We ask your blessings upon everything they do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marcia, thank you so much. We have some amended minutes that were sent out to all of us. Any other changes or additions to the meeting minutes for November 12th? Seeing none, I move that we approve the November 12th, 2019 meeting minutes.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. And motion passes unanimously. What do we have? 5 of us? All right. Yes, sir. We have a couple of proclamations.
There, you just walk in.
Our first proclamation this morning is for American Education Week. So if we could have President Logan and her friends join her. We have the superintendent. Great to have you both. We have a proclamation for you that reads, whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas the mission of Wichita Public Schools is to prepare all students to achieve college, career, and life readiness through an innovative and rigorous educational experience. And whereas for nearly 150 years, Wichita Public Schools employees, be they teachers, administrators, librarians, substitute educators, custodians, or bus drivers, work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas successful public schools are essential to the growth and prosperity of the Wichita community. And whereas the 90 educational facilities of the Wichita Public Schools are vital community centers, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials to empower everyone to dream, believe, and achieve. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, the mayor of the city, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim November 18th through 22nd of 2019 is the 98th observance of the American Education Week. And I'll present this to you and whoever would like to share, or both of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Longwell and the City Council. It's a pleasure to commemorate the American Education Week and to shine the spotlight on public education in Wichita. Dr. Alicia Thompson is with me today, as well as a couple of members of our staff, Joseph Boehm and Wendy Johnson. Wichita is a city that values and supports public education and its kids. Our voters passed 2 significant bond issues to improve district facilities because they recognize that the Wichita Public Schools is an essential partner in economic and social future of our community. Education equates to economic development. There's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and every day members of our community are in our schools as tutors or mentors or providing extra support for our students. Wichita Public Schools graduates will be prepared for both college and/or careers through our relentless focus on our 4 strategic plan goals: increasing graduation rate, making sure every student is literate by the end of 3rd grade, college as well as career readiness experiences, and most importantly, safety in our schools. Our students have unparalleled opportunities and choices through our magnet programs, career and technical education, IB, AVID, early childhood, early college academy, JORTC, and multiple extracurricular activities. The bottom line is our district matters to Wichita, and Wichita matters to us. Thank you for honoring us through this commemoration of American Education Week. Dr. Thompson? Okay. Thank you very much.
Our next proclamation is for Small Business Saturday, and we have some folks here from the, well, good to have you, Wayne Bell. And did you bring anybody? Didn't bring anybody. You're more than enough. Good to have you this morning, Wayne.
Thank you, sir.
We have a proclamation for Small Business Saturday that reads, whereas Wichita celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 30.2 million small businesses in the United States that represent 99.9% of all businesses with employees in the United States, making up 47.5% of the private workforce. And whereas small businesses created 1.9 million net jobs, and firms employing fewer than 20 employees experienced the largest gains and added 1.1 million net jobs. And whereas a total of 294,834 companies exported goods from the United States, and of these, 287,835, or 97.6% to round it up, were small firms generating 32.9% of the United States' $1.3 trillion in total exports. Is that enough numbers for you? Whereas Wichita supports our local small businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. Whereas the majority of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses are critical to the overall economic health of the United States, and that 76% of consumers in the United States plan to go to one or more small businesses as part of their holiday shopping. So now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, Mayor of the city, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2019 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support our small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And Wayne, we'll let you have the podium.
Thank you, Mayor Longwell. Good morning. All right, members of City Council. So, won't throw a whole lot of numbers at you. I think the mayor did a fine job of that. However, there are a few numbers that are worth noting. And for clarification again, the 2019 holiday season is fast approaching. And as we begin to prepare our plans for the holidays, something I'd like you all to keep on your radar. As the mayor pointed out, November 30th is Small Business Saturday. No doubt that's the largest or the biggest shopping weekend of the year. And as you all know, there is a tremendous impact that the small businesses across our country and throughout our communities make in our lives every day. Over 99% of the entities in Kansas are small, and those small businesses employ over 51% of all of us statewide. So again, during this holiday season, the U.S. Small Business Administration hopes that you will celebrate the more than 250,000 Kansas small businesses that ignite our local economies and enrich our communities throughout the year. We ask that you consider shopping small again on November 30th, Small Business Saturday. It is a day for each of us to acknowledge those businesses again that deliver essential goods and services to our communities 365 days a year. So I encourage you again to join me and the more than 100 million Americans that will shop and dine small, and I'm sure Mayor Longwell will lead that charge, no doubt. So show your support for the Kansas small businesses that keep us all going day in, day out, and certainly throughout the holiday season. Be sure to share your great stories and any pictures, that sort of thing, using the hashtag #ShopSmall. Thank you all again today, and enjoy the holiday season.
He meant to say shop big at a small business. So we have a couple of awards to share this morning. The first is the Voice of the People Award. If Bob Layton would join me. You bring them up. Bring everybody. You could bring all of your friends up. So come on up. So I'm going to share just a little bit of background. This is the third award our finance department has received in 2 weeks. We're happy to present the Voice of the People Award. This award was given to us by the Transformation and Community Engagement at the ICMA conference that Mr. Layton recently attended. This award is only given to the top performing jurisdictions that best listen and act for the benefit of their communities. Based on the responses from the National Citizen Survey, now the National Community Survey, the residents in our community reported the highest levels of improvement for this category compared with all other participating jurisdictions. The National Community Survey reports resident opinion and satisfaction with local government and services with a scientific, representative sample approach. Results are then used to inform budgeting and performance measurement and program planning. The Voice of the People Award stands alone as the only award given in a local government based on community opinion. The perspectives of the residents themselves determine nominees for the very best of the community engagement: safety, mobility, foundations of livability, recreation and wellness, education and enrichment, natural environment, built environment, and economy. Of the communities that participated in the National Community Survey in 2018, winners and finalists for transformation in these categories showed the greatest improvement in resident opinions from their last conducted iteration of the survey. So I will ask Bob Layton to come up and share some remarks.
Mayor, thank you. This award was received by Elizabeth Goldtree, Wadel, and myself at the ICMA conference, and Finance Department took the lead on it. However, it's really reflective of the engagement initiatives that have been brought forward by the mayor and city council, and then implemented by all of the staff people that are in the organization, many departments represented here that took an active role in what I would say are enhanced engagement efforts over the last couple of years. The Transformation and Community Engagement Award is prestigious, as the mayor mentioned. The City of Wichita commissions the National Community Survey to get feedback from our residents every 2 years. We've been doing that since 2006. The Voice of the People Awards are the only awards given in local government based on the opinion of community residents and are conferred jointly by the National Research Center and the International City and County Management Association. They embody the spirit of the National Community Survey and display commitment to the best practices in moving communities forward. Just some of the programs that were noted in the issuance of this award: the Mayor's Thursday news briefings, Project Wichita, Candid Conversations, which is a discussion of race in Wichita, sponsored by our libraries, the First Steps Cookout, hosted by the Wichita Police Department, transportation initiatives, including the School Pass Partnership Program, the Open Data Program known as Open Wichita, as well as the Places for People Plan and the citizen engagement that was involved in that. We will be undertaking our survey again a little later, actually the beginning of 2020. We'll have more information out for our residents at that time. Mayor, I want to present this to you on behalf of the entire city organization and congratulate you on your initiatives to move us forward with citizen engagement.
Thank you, Bob. So thank all of you, and way to mess up our reputation of not being transparent and only doing backroom deals, darn it. We appreciate you. Thank you all. All right, we have another special award today that we want to hand out to Mary Lou Rivers. If Mary Lou would come up and bring her friends with her, if you'd like, they're welcome to join us. So, for those of you that I can't imagine that don't know Mary Lou, she has been incredibly active in this community for at least a year or two.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you've been able to do in your 39 years. We have something very special that we don't give out very often at these meetings, and so we have a special coin of the city that has the Keeper of the Plains on one side and a logo of a wagon wheel with an airplane in the middle to show from Cowtown to aviation and the Great Plains of Kansas. And we want to present this special coin to the city, to Mary Lou, for all of the work that she's done on behalf of this community, and I invite you to come up and share the podium. Thank you so much.
My, I only knew about this just a little time last week. And I believe Nancy Lawrence is my sponsor, kind of. She and I have worked on city projects for 30 years, but there's one other gentleman in here, Nancy, that can beat that. And I've known him since we were in kindergarten together. And he's sitting in the middle of my entourage there. So I have people that I love very much, from my school times to the Greenway Alliance, to Botanica, to Delano, and to the Chisholm Trail and all the events and things that I've worked on. Thoughts of all these people. Many of my family are here today, besides my children. And it's wonderful to be singled out and congratulated. I don't need that to work. I will continue. I will continue to work on the projects that I'm working on and will continue to love to do. And you all know that they vary from Boy Scouting for 25 years to Botanica from 30-some years. Delano for 30-some years, even though I'm not a resident in Delano anymore. That doesn't mean that I still don't love the activities and the new ball stadium there. You know, if we didn't think there were crowds there before, we'd hold events and pray our family came, if nothing else. And now you can't find a place to park, which is a good problem. So I hope you all will continue to join me when I call and say, "Can you come and help with this?" And they pretty much all do, and I appreciate it very much. And Mayor and City Council, thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me.
Very deserving.
Thank
Very
you.
deserving. Thank you. Madam Clerk, you want to call the next item?
Consent agenda items 1 through 10.
Any items need to be pulled for clarification or discussion? Move that we approve consent agenda items 1 through 10.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 6-0 now. We're growing.
Growing government.
Madam Clerk, next, next item, please.
Report of Board of Bids and Contracts dated November 18th, 2019.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Melinda Walker, Purchasing Manager, City of Wichita. First item we have for our engineering bids is the 2020 inventory sidewalk maintenance. Prado Construction, $650,436. We have the 2020 on-call sidewalk maintenance, Conspec, for $122,900. West River Boulevard sanitary sewer replacement is Dutton Construction and Plumbing for $80,136. The 2020 OP3 CIP microsurfacing for Vance Brothers, $946,800. We have the Wheatland Place to serve Rainbow Lake, and we're recommending reject all bids. 2019, I did that right. OP3 CIP concrete and sidewalk repairs phase 2, Conspec, $714,760. KDOT Rebud multi-use path K96 to 159th is deferred to December 2nd. The KDOT 17th Street Broadway to I-135 is deferred to December 2nd. The Aquatics Master Plan Phase 1 is deferred to November 26th. 2019 Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction Phase 10, Dutton Construction, $136,721. Water Distribution and Sanitary Sewer Extension to serve Clear Creek Addition, Nowak Construction, Group 1, $33,907, and Group 2, $55,536.85. Emerald Bay Court to serve Emerald Bay, Pearson Construction, $263,505.60. Water Distribution System, Sanitary Sewer Improvements to serve Rocky Ford Addition, Nowak Construction, Group 1, $43,801, Group 2, $67,673. 34th Street South to serve Rocky Ford Addition, Pearson Construction, $70,817.50. Teakwood to serve Whispering Lakes, recommend reject all bids. In 2020, OP3 Street Repairs Phase 1, Conspec, $349,460. For purchasing, we have flood control fencing for Ready Fencing, $43,224.48. 2019 flood control rehab is for Donlinger and Sons Construction, $155,000. Sidewalk ADA modification for parks, Barclay Construction, $107,700. Reprographic services is the ARC Document Solutions, $3,782.66. And this is an annual contract, so the itemized pricing is in the formal bid report. We have mobile printers and hardwares. We're going to reject all bids. 2020 street side asphalt paving is to reject all bids. Vertical mixed flow pump is DXP Enterprise, $91,460. Hardware for the records management software is Converge One for $529,000. For Fourier Transform infrared devices for fire is Fair West Environmental Supply for $59,950. Laser scanner kit and public safety scanning suite, Collision Forensic Solutions, $168,000. The list is for our open request for proposals that we currently have open for medical bill review, NIC install groundwater remediation, beverage services for golf courses, playground resurfacing, data link analysis software, extended stay providers for our RAD project, on-call consulting services, and vehicle fleet information software. If you want to register for the City of Wichita, you can visit our e-procurement website, and our telephone number is also there for any bids for that. So recommend we approve the bid award as recommended.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I move that we award the bids as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 6-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public hearing and issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds, Spirit Aerosystems, Inc.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Tim Goodpasture with the City's Office of Economic Development. For the record, the item before you today is a request for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds from Spirit Aerosystems. Spirit Aerosystems was founded in 2005 and was formerly a division of Boeing. It is a Tier 1 manufacturer of metal and composite aerostructures that is located on South Oliver between 31st Street South and 47th Street. The aerial here outlines the area that is the Spirit campus in South Wichita. On May 3rd of 2016, a new 5-year letter of intent was approved for Spirit Aerosystems in an amount not to exceed $280 million. At the time, it was projected that Spirit would be investing capital expenditures in excess of $1 billion, the majority of which would be in machinery and equipment, which is not subject to property tax in the state of Kansas and therefore is not required to be bond financed. The 2019 request is in an amount not to exceed $40 million, which includes investments in bay upgrades, new chillers, cranes, cooling towers, lighting upgrades, chemical mill improvements, and industrial waste line, road improvements, and more. A cost-benefit analysis was conducted at the time of the letter of intent, which showed an overall ratio of benefits to cost to the city of 5.38 to 1 and 2.60 to 1 for the city's general fund. Therefore, it is the staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing and approve the first reading of the bond ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents for the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds for Spirit Aerosystems, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $40 million and authorize the necessary signatures. Adam Pogue, who is the Vice President of Manufacturing Services, and Sam Sackett, who is the Senior Manager of Government Relations, are both here and can answer any questions specific to Spirit, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Any questions for Tim? Seeing none, we'll go out to the audience. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Hope you're going to tell me how I can get that same kind of return on investment for my dollars.
Good morning, Mayor Longwell. Good morning, council members. Back again, Adam Pogue, Spirit's Vice President for Manufacturing Services. Here to thank you for your consideration of the continuance of these bonds and everything that you do for Spirit. Tim showed you a lot of it. We continue to remain very focused on our expansion and investment here in Wichita. Millions of dollars invested in infrastructure, continued expansion across the facilities, remaining very focused on our commitments to the city and this team in terms of the employment numbers now exceeding 13,000, and the site footprint now in excess of 12 million square foot. Exciting times, lots going on. I tell you, as a Spirit leader and a lifelong Wichita resident, excited about the things that we're doing and excited about the support that we get from this team. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Would you consider making this a monthly agenda item?
Absolutely.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Councilmember Clendenin.
Mayor, thank you very much. I'm, again, very grateful for Spirit solidifying their footprint in the city of Wichita. Anytime that we can continue to solidify that footprint, we're willing to take a look at that. So that being said, Mayor, I want to recommend that we close the public hearing and approve the first reading of the bond ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents for the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds for Spirit Aerosystems, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $40 million and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Madam Clerk, next agenda item.
Amendments to Section 2.04.190 of the Code of the City of Wichita regarding the order of council business consent agenda.
Morning, Mayor and Council. Today I bring to you a refinement in the process for establishing the City Council agenda. City Code currently establishes the order of business for regular council meetings. That includes new business as well as consent items. However, the Council's had some concerns regarding the subjectivity of the consent agenda and has asked for some guidelines or to refine guidelines as we go forward. And that's what I'm bringing forward to you today. The whole idea is to get more consistency in the consent agenda and also to increase transparency. The ordinance is broken down really in two main sections. The first has to do with outlining the items that are appropriate for consent agenda, and the second establishes a process for review of the agenda before it's finalized. In the ordinance itself, there are 19 subject areas that are considered appropriate for consent agenda. Just as an aside, we looked at what a number of cities do in this area. All of them are very, very brief in their description of what the consent agenda should be and is very similar to what we currently have on the books. And as I mentioned, I believe there's been concern about that being too subjective. And as a result of that, wanted to bring objective criteria forward, and that's what you have on this slide and the next slide, there, in terms of the 19 items that are considered to be appropriate for consideration on the consent agenda. However, again, recognizing that there may be some items that, even if they meet this criteria, warrant some additional public discussion. We've set up a process that a week before the agenda for the council meeting, the mayor and vice mayor would have an opportunity to review the draft agenda, items proposed for new business as well as for the consent agenda, and could make modifications prior to or sometime during that week. Additionally, the agenda is considered to be draft until Friday, when the council does its agenda review, and then at noon on Friday, we would lock the agenda in after the council has reviewed it and commented on the appropriateness of the items on both new business and consent. And then any items that would be added to the agenda after noon on Friday would require a majority of the council members to add. That is the process as we brought it forward. Like, as I said, this is a lot more comprehensive than we were able to find in any other city, comparable city our size, especially in the Midwest. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions and recommend the approval of the first reading of this ordinance.
Questions? Councilmember Fry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Bob, I just want to be clear, back on slide 6.
Yes.
As it relates to the specific language in the ordinance, are we talking about just having the mayor and vice mayor review what's on consent or on the full agenda?
Full agenda. This ordinance change is primarily dealing with the appropriateness of items for the consent. However, the entire agenda would be sent to the mayor and the vice mayor.
Okay, I guess I was under the understanding that it was just going to be reviewed for what should be on regular agenda versus consent. So this is a little different.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding
So-
what. Yeah, the idea is to the primary idea is to determine what should be on consent and what should be on new business.
Right.
However, if I think at that time the mayor and vice mayor are free to make other comments regarding the agenda if they wish. But the primary issue has to do with what's appropriate on the consent agenda.
Okay.
So I think the concern is, could just one or two people have the power and authority then to kill something altogether off the agenda?
Well, if that's the question, we can clarify that. I think the way it's written right now, I'll need help from law. I think it has to do with primarily just with the issues of consent versus
Right.
new business.
Right, that's the way I read it here.
Right.
But the way you described it
Right.
made it sound like full
It's
agenda.
more,
Right. Okay.
So-
I apologize for that.
Okay. Is that correct, Jennifer?
I think it's appropriate that the way it's drafted, that it gives the opportunity for council to provide direction to the manager in framing and detailing the consent and the regular. So I don't see a problem with it from a legal perspective.
The appropriateness of items on the agenda, I would envision, would be determined on Friday before the agenda is locked in. The appropriateness of items that are consent versus new business, we'd have guidance from the mayor and vice mayor prior to that Friday meeting. Council ultimately would make the final decision on that Friday.
Because I understand it's still all a draft. but
That's correct,
I
until
just didn't want-
Friday at noon, right.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Okay, thank you, and I'm even more confused now because, I thought this was only about consent agendas so that we could make sure that if the mayor and vice mayor felt like, those items need to be out there in the public, let's get them moved to consent. I didn't understand this is a full agenda. So, and I'm trying to figure out this ordinance. Is this all new, or, because I don't see any markups?
No,
So
there's-
do we have to just show the markups, or?
Delineated, first question, no, it's not a new ordinance. We have a provision in the ordinance for the consent. This amends that ordinance. There's a delineated copy in the packet before the final.
We do have a copy of the corrections or changes? Because all I see is just a full copy of the ordinance.
They were towards the back, Vice Mayor.
No.
There
I
should
don't
be
think
both.
our delineated copy got put in here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Well, I don't either. We don't have a
We
delineated
can
copy.
email that to you.
Okay, I still don't, at this time, I don't have a good understanding of it.
Well, I think I apologize if I said something that misled you. The idea is to bring clarification to the consent agenda, and that's the way the ordinance is written.
Councilmember Tuttle?
Thank you, Bob. I just want to ask one quick question. You said on Friday at noon, the agenda would be final.
Right.
If for some reason during the course of the weekend or on Monday, new information was discovered or additional questions were posed, Tuesday during consent agenda approval, we could still pull an item then?
Yes, you can.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Nothing changes in that regard.
Yep, just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we always have the opportunity to pull for discussion or, whatever the will of the council is. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Anyone want to discuss agenda?
Don't go there.
See no one wanting to discuss the agenda, we will bring the discussion back to the bench. Councilmember Tuttle?
I just want to clarify, it's my understanding that this is just because we had some questions that, why are things on the consent agenda? And so this is just a way to formalize and clarify for the public the process for which we have things on consent versus not. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Nothing's really changing, it's just making it a little bit more structured and formalized so that the public, the community, our residents that we serve can understand how decisions are made and what goes where on the agenda. Is that correct?
Right. What changes, though, is we have more guidance on the items that you consider to be appropriate for consent agenda.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the confusion was, they thought the council always had, in the past, reviewed what was on consent, and we never did. So the consent agenda was always built by staff, never by council. And the council typically didn't see the agenda or the consent agenda until Thursday afternoon or Friday.
Correct.
And this gives the council a chance to see it a little bit earlier, to move it to regular agenda, and gives the staff a little more guidance on what should be placed on consent. But that's the real confusion. There's some in the community that continue to get it wrong. The council never built the consent agenda ever.
Mayor, I think the other issue is the misunderstanding of the agenda. It has always been intended to be a draft document until we have the agenda review on Friday. And there have been times where I think it's represented as being locked in prior to that time.
So are we ready to move forward, Vice Mayor?
I'm not, it sounds like a good idea, but I don't want to go forward with it without seeing a delineated copy so we can see the exact changes that are made in the ordinance.
Why don't we defer it? What is our next council meeting? December?
December 3rd.
Why don't we just defer it to December 3rd? That gives us plenty of time to see the delineated copies and look at the changes. So motion to defer to the first meeting in December.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, next item.
Quarterly financial report for the quarter ended September 30th, 2019.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the City Council. Mark Manning with the Department of Finance. Today I want to go over with you the quarterly report for the third quarter of 2019. Just a reminder, this reviews unaudited financial activity through September 30th of 2019. We'll take that data and we'll compare it to the 2019 revised budget, which was approved in August, and it also provides a look back to third quarter results in 2018. So some of the key points from the presentation today are, overall, most of the results are consistent with the 2019-2020 budget, which is a good thing. The general fund is expected to be balanced at year end. Again, that's a consistent message that we provided. And finally, the Gulf Fund, probably to no surprise, continues to be stressed. So we'll hit on that a little bit. So let's look at the general fund first. Probably the biggest challenge that we've had in the general fund in 2019 is our weather-related franchise fees. Obviously, it's difficult for us to forecast the weather, and electric franchise fees in particular are significantly impacted by the weather, specifically the hot summer months. This summer, as you may recall, was not quite up to normal Kansas standards for heat, and that has impacted some of our franchise fees. But really, that's probably the only area where we've had revenue challenges in the general fund. Most of our other revenues in our portfolio are performing as we expect, and in some cases better than we expect, and that's a really good sign for the future, as I'll discuss here in a minute. But property taxes are performing well, sales tax, motor vehicle, gas tax, all of those are performing about where we expected, interest earnings as well. On the expenditure side, everything is trending about where we would expect, which is to say that they're slightly lower than what we budgeted, and again, that's relatively typical each year. So overall, what to expect out of the general fund in 2019, we would expect to end the year somewhere around $246 million on the revenue side. And again, that's about 3.5% growth over last year, which again is historically a pretty good growth amount based on what we've experienced in the general fund over the last few years. Expenditures also, we would expect to total about $246 million. So we do expect a balanced budget. Just a reminder, as we've talked about in the past, public safety does continue to be our largest expenditure area. We would expect this year to spend somewhere around $138 million on public safety, which is about 56% of our total general fund. Finally, our reserves are very important. We mentioned interest rates last week in our refunding sale. As you know, our rating agencies pay a lot of attention to our reserves, so we do expect our reserve level to be constant at $35 million, or about 14% of expenditures, which is a good thing. So let's review our debt real quick. We show you this pie chart every quarter. It looks pretty similar to what we've seen in the past. The purple slice there, GO at large, is about 4% of our total debt portfolio. Again, we always point that out. That's the property tax supported debt in our portfolio, and it's a very small fraction of our total debt. Our total debt is, at the end of the third quarter, about $975 million, and you can see the various components of it there. But let's look forward on debt a little bit. We did have some activity in 2019. We did issue some GO at large bonds that you will see in the fourth quarter report when we present to you in about 3 months. So by year end, our GO at large debt will increase slightly. We would expect it to end the year somewhere around 6.7% of our total portfolio. Again, a very small fractional piece of our total debt. Overall, in 3 months, I would expect our debt level to be just a shade over $1 billion. And again, that's very consistent with the levels that we've had over the last several years. And in fact, it's actually a little bit lower than where we were in 2017. So let's talk about the Gulf Fund briefly. It continues to be stressed. Our revenues year over year through the third quarter were down about 6.6%. As you know, Gulf has implemented and developed a number of strategies to try to bring some stability to this fund. So we'll monitor those and report on the results of that. And at year end, consistent with the 2019 budget, we will transfer in money as appropriate in order to solidify the fund in 2019. Just briefly, some of the other funds, again, some of the variances. Transient guest tax is performing very well in 2019. As you know, it's cyclical, but this has been a very good year for transient guest tax. Special Alcohol Fund, which primarily funds drug and alcohol abuse programs, has also performed very well through the third quarter of this year. Water revenues, as I mentioned, are weather-related, and those revenues are down in 2019, again, based on the weather primarily in the summer months. So to date, water revenue in 2019 is actually a little bit lower than it was in 2018. And finally, I'll talk about the Self-Supporting Municipal Improvement District. We don't talk about it very often, but I thought I'd mention it briefly. It's primarily property tax based, and it is actually performing very well this year. Our property tax revenues are very strong there, which is a good sign, and it will actually over-collect this year in property tax revenues. So in summary, again, through the third quarter, most of our results are consistent with the 2019 revised budget. And I would point out it's a little premature to start talking about 2020 at this point. Having said that, all the trends and data that we see so far are relatively consistent with what we expected when we developed the 2020 budget, and that's a positive. Gulf Fund continues to be challenged. We will obviously continue to monitor it closely into the future. And as I mentioned before, we do expect the general fund balance in 2019 to be balanced. And with that, the recommended action is to receive and file, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mark. Related to golf,
Yes, sir.
is it too early to say whether or not the new pass membership program is successful or not? I mean, I noticed that the rounds were about the same, but the revenue decreased quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's a little premature at this point to determine whether or not it's successful. However, having said that, we have monitored it carefully. We've been talking with our golf division staff, and I know that they did sell a lot of passes initially, but I can't completely answer your question yet. We'll report on that when we do the fourth quarter report.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the audience. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Any other discussion? I move we receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council, Penny Feist, Public Works and Utilities. This item is a proposal for a temporary change in the way that we administer the Help to Others, or H2O program. This is a city program that helps eligible households experiencing a financial hardship with their water bills so that they are not at risk for shut-off due to non-payment. To be eligible, households must have an income of less than 125% of the federal poverty level, and they can receive this assistance one time per year. They just have to be a City of Wichita water customer, a residential, not a business type user. The program began in 2013, and at that time it was funded by donations only. But then in 2015, the City Council approved a water and sewer rate increase of 0.1%, and this expanded the funding and also provided a dedicated funding source for the program. The Center of Hope administers the H2 program on behalf of the city, and applicants are seen by appointment only on Tuesday afternoons. This is just one of many programs the Center of Hope administers. In addition to reviewing their finances and determining if they're eligible, they also offer short-term budget counseling. And if an applicant is approved, the Center of Hope notifies city staff. City staff then allocates the Center of Hope, the H2O funds, to the water account. So the essence of the proposal is to allocate $150,000 for 1 month only from December 1st to December 31st. And instead of having to go through the Center of Hope, applicants can apply directly to City of Wichita staff. And we would use a proxy eligibility process, which means if you can prove that you received LEAP, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program for 2019, then we would consider you eligible for H2O for that month. And the applicant would receive $50 credit on their water bill. This is just a little bit more information on LEAP. It is an energy assistance program only, so it does not provide assistance for water. And the income requirements are really similar to the H2O program. The chart there gives you an idea of the kind of income levels we're talking about. So the recommendation would be to approve the supplemental H2O program for December 2019, and approve any necessary budget adjustments.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the audience. I'm sorry, Councilmember.
Thank you for your presentation. Pardon me, and I'm going to be supportive. I just have a question. You mentioned that applications are only Tuesday afternoons and by appointment only.
Right.
So what if somebody has transportation issues or they have a job and they can't leave? Can it ever be done by phone, or is there other exceptions or anything? It just seems like the people who are most in need may not be able to get here because they might not have access to transportation or they can't leave their job. So is there ever accommodations made for that?
So, and that is with the Center of Hope only, so they would have to call on Monday to schedule an appointment for Tuesday afternoon, and I think that the Center of Hope would work with them if they had transportation issues, but they would set that appointment for Tuesday afternoon. And that is one of the reasons that we're trying to expand the program for December 2019 so that we can allow more points of access. And this way, you don't have to have an appointment, you don't have to talk to us, you just have to submit your application, proof that you're income eligible as determined by LEAP, and then we can provide assistance. Other than the primary purpose to assist as many eligible households as possible, this will also give us some good information regarding how we can improve the program in the future.
Great answer. Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? We'll go out to the audience. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Any other questions? I appreciate that clarification. I move that we take staff recommended action.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, next item.
Council members' appointments and comments.
I have one note here that Cindy needs to appoint June Johnson to the District 6 Advisory Board. So I think because there's a lack of meetings, let's go ahead and do it. If it's different, she can take her back off. Are there any other appointments? I would move that we approve June Johnson to the District 6 Advisory Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your vote. Motion passes. Vice Mayor?
Just wanted to say a couple words. You know, I've seen a little rash of violence here in the last week, and just you know, prayers out there to the families, and the police officers, and everybody else. It just seems like a very stressful situation, and just hate seeing all this violence in our community.
No, appreciate that. Holiday season can be a stressful time for all, so. Any other comments? Seeing none, I move that we adjourn today's council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Cast your vote. And we are unanimously adjourned.